This will be your last time you see this in my shop. It's finally finished. At least my part of it is. David's got some stuff to do in it. He's got to put a stereo in it. Got to wire the windows. He's got to do a little bit of work on mounting the top. Got to put seats in it. So it's going back to California. It's pretty much finished, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm glad to put, boom, that big red done stamp on it, because it's been a pain. But come along as you watch the very last episode where we do the very fine last few things that I have. So, like everything else about this kit, it was a lot of incomplete stuff. So it's taken time to get stuff sent here. They sent the wrong fuel tank sending unit, fuel pump adapter setup, totally wrong. The one that's in the tank is that big around, and the one they sent's that big around. The air inlet pipe that they sent wouldn't fit this thing in any way, shape, or form. So I made a new one, and it's finally in. But in order to put it in, I had to get the windshield washer tank out of this Fender, and there was no way to take that out. That tank is form fitted inside there. So I had to change these fender tops anyway. These are aluminum. I don't know why Range Rover thought that was a good idea, but of course when you're up here working on one of these things and you put your elbows on it, or you lean on it, or you stand on it, I threw the old ones away because they were so bad. But David was informed by the body shop that, oh, it's only 10 bolts. It's real easy to change, so he didn't have them change them. Well, they never took them off. There's evidence of that. There's no paint in there. But when I went to change it, I was able to take this cover off. This is just a cover. Reach way up in here, if you can imagine, and there's a tank here, and take these big screws out. There's 4 or 5 on the front and a whole bunch down the side. And you got to be very careful not to bend this thing. But I got everything loose, had to drill out spot welds, which Range Rover thought it was a good idea to spot weld all this together and then break those spot welds out without creating too much of a mess. I couldn't get the cover off. Part of the reason I thought that maybe if I could do this, I saw that it had a flange on the front. Why would you do that? I can't imagine. But this is tucked underneath this piece. To take the fender off looked like a major ordeal. So I was going to raise it up. Well, I can't raise it up because this rain gutter hits. That's hanging over the top of the fender. So I took a saw and cut this old one in half. I thought, okay, well, I'll bend it up this way and bend it up this way and take it off. It wouldn't work. Then I realized, I went and looked the new ones, it has a flange on the side. So it tucks under the front and it tucks under the side. So that's just the way this project has gone. I ended up having to take the fender flare off, and it's a one-time use plastic piece of crap plug that holds these on. So I had to ruin all those, take them out, and then there's a row of bolts up in here that are Whitworth. For those of you who know what Whitworth is, metric won't work and standard won't work. So I don't have Whitworth wrenches. That's a made up thing from 1920 or something, British. So I used the wrong size metric, and I'm trying to ratchet these. Well, half of my ratchet was getting used up in the slop in the bolt, you know, because it didn't fit the wrench. Anyway, long story long, I ended up getting all these out, taking this fender off, and I was able to cut it in half. The other one I pulled out and roll it up and get it out from under this flange and get that tank out of here. Once I got the tank out, I made a new charge pipe. Now there's a big Spectra filter down in here. No, it doesn't have windshield washers anymore. I would have probably done something different and left, but there's just really no place to put the only other place to put the air filter would have been right here, and it would have been in the way of all the belt tensioner, and it would have sucked hot air up. So I elected to do this, and I made this new one. I made a bracket on it to mount it to the fender so it doesn't bounce around. So that's done. They didn't send the radiator mounts, so we had to have them send those. I didn't even know what they'd look like. They just sent a radiator. So there's two little brackets that go down here. You won't even be able to see them. And they sent those, and I was able to put the radiator in, and then the top, I drilled and welded a 3/8 aluminum stud. These are the factory upper mounts. I had to rebend them to make them raise up for this taller radiator. And so this is mounted in, it's all mounted in rubber, fortunately. I was able to put the condenser back in basically the location it was. I just had to lower it down. They sent this giant Duramax transmission cooler. And I thought, where is that gonna go? Well, they mount it right behind the bumper. A lot of airflow, right? So I moved mine down. I made some brackets, moved it down. They sheet metal screw it. The guys said, put a couple self-tappers in it and hang it off of the brackets, right off of this. So most of it's behind the bumper. I still don't like what I've got, but there's not an option. So there's in David's skid pan plate here, which is, you can tell is heavy, the air can get to it through those holes. So the trans cooler, this ginormous thing, is down here. Everything's in up here. So that's just a lot of crap. I didn't want to do video on that. Had to take the bumper off, just a bunch of boring mechanical stuff. Where I am now, I think finally, I'm ready to mount the ECU while I've got this fender top off on this side. I'm gonna make a bracket and mount the ECU right here. I'm gonna hook up the cooling fan, relays, and sensor and the radiator. I'm gonna put this fender top back on, and then we're gonna do the final transmission wiring. And I think I can start it. Today's David's birthday, so I'm trying to have this thing running by midnight tonight so we can give him a birthday surprise. He doesn't know that yet. Right here, this is something I don't quite understand. The hole on that fender over there is blocked. The one on this fender sucks the air in for the air conditioner. I guess it recirculates too, but you draw your air in the top of the fender. I don't know, whatever. But let's get this stuff mounted and see if we can turn it. Well, no. If we were American, we turn the key, right? On the right side. Well, you got to reach behind. This is interesting. I'm going to show you. Okay, so if this was an American car, the key would be over there, easy to reach. So this is your turn signals and your headlight high and low beam. Boy, it feels weird. This is I think this turns the headlights on and off. Guess where the key is? Back here behind this thing. I'm not kidding. Look, so when you reach in there to start this thing, you have to reach behind this headlight switch and turn this key back here on the left side. So I'm telling you, everything about this thing is very goofy. I think it'll shrink down that far. You may be thinking I could go inside that sleeve, and I suppose I could, but I really don't want to hide that wire completely because I may have to change it up to run two fans, because I've got two fans and one control wire. I'm going to try to do it off of one wire because the fans are small. tie that stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, that'll be the fans hooked up. I can mount the ECU. One thing I learned about cooling fans is I like to be able to see or find the wiring. And I'd rather have it kind of zip tied out here in the open, because if it goes out, and we've had them go out for different reasons, I want to be able to know how to bypass it and make it work. Let's put this, let's see, I'm going to mount this ECU right here. So I guess I can go ahead and tie that fan wire to there. Hopefully it's that easy. That should be the fan wiring, and now we'll mount that ECU. And I'm just drawing it out as I go. Nothing, there's no real rule to follow. I want a square pad to mount the ECU on, that's 6.5 by 6.5. So that's what I've got drawn out here. And then I want a tab to turn, flat plate, turn down, turn back out, and I bolt it down and it'll raise it off the fender. That's a little over 1 inch. I think that's 1 1/8. Yep. So what I'm going to do is come here in the center of the 6.5, 3 1/4. Let's see, what do I want to make my tab? I'm going to make it 2 inches wide. So 2 1/4 and 4 1/4. 2 1/4, 4 1/4. I'm just going to lay this square. That happens to be 2 1/4, or 2 inch rather. I knew that. All right. So I'm going to cut this out. I got too many tape measures on my saw. I decided to make one change, I think. Let me see. Is it worth doing? Nah, it's not worth doing. Okay, so the square will mount the ECU, and I'm going to bend it to where this turns down and then turns back, and these tabs will sit on the inner fender, and I'll drill holes in it and put bolts to hold the ECU up 1 1/8 inch, or yeah, be 1 1/8 inch. So I'm going to sand this, get those saw marks off of it, and then we'll bend it. Okay, all dressed up and know where to go. Let's bend these. Not quite 90, and I'm okay with that because I don't want to readjust the brake for this 1/8 inch plate. It doesn't have to be 90. It can be whatever I want. You know what? I just bent this wrong.
I was wondering. I almost said something, but
I gotta bend this. I should have bent those first, but I didn't, so I made it hard on myself. I'll get it done. You always have to think 2 steps ahead when you're bending. I should have bent those outside ones first. But I didn't bend them 90, so that helps a little bit. I might be able to squeeze this in here. It's gonna work. Mounting pad. See, I should have bent this one first and then I wouldn't have had any trouble. But by this not being a 90, it allows me to just clear it. And I may have to bend it a little different when it's on the truck because that's, well, actually that's not too bad. I think because I'm putting it on a round fender, it needs to have a little bit less than a 90 degree to it. See how those now are round. Before I make them match, I'm gonna go try it on the truck. So, here's my idea. That's gonna work good. So I'm gonna put the ECU about that location right there so the cable's not bound up or bunched up, anything. So this one, I'm gonna make a mark so I know where to go back. I'm gonna straighten this one out just a little bit, and same with the bottom. It's a little overbent. You can see daylight here. So I want this to flatten out and that one to flatten out, and that'll mount nicely on the round fender. It's got some roundness to it, but it's got gap here. Now we got a lot of gap. Let's go try that. Ooh, I like it. Okay, so you can see that sets nice and flat against the fender. I'll just drill and put it. I'm going to use 1/4 inch bolts because I'm not a metric guy. I'm going to put 2 1/4 inch bolts in there, and I'm going to put 4 in the ECU. So let's see. I guess I'll actually measure those bolt holes because I can't reach through there with a pin to scribe them. They look like they're different from one side to the other, so that'll be interesting. I decided to cheat. These really nice OEM style connectors unplug really easy. I say that. They unfasten really easy. There we go. That lever's supposed to pop it up out of there. So let's just carry this over. And I'll get a transfer punch. Maybe we'll get a transfer punch the right size. slide it over. Everything moves. This thing's, you know, it's not flat. Why GM does some stuff kind of like Land, whatchamacallit, does. Why wouldn't they make that flat? But in their infinite wisdom, they didn't. I like my Holly stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to drill that. I'm just going to make an uneducated guess as to the center, and I bet you anything that's not very far off. Okay, I'm going to drill some holes. So just to check micrometer calibration. They're kind of dirty, and I didn't take too long, but let's just check. So I just made marks, you saw. Let's see. From the edge to the center, 1 inch, 4.5 thousandths. Oh darn. That is exactly 1 inch, 4.5 or 5 thousandths. I hope you can see the center. So, what can I say? Micrometers adjusted. I don't like drilling that old soft aluminum. It just balls up on the back. Alright, let's wash the WD-40 off of it and bolt stuff together. I got to drill the 2 holes in the inner fender and bolt that together. Okay, since I marked that inner fender and it's really more just getting close, I'm going to scoot it in just a little bit. I don't know if I can get there to drill that. Maybe I can. I could scoot it back, but I don't want the cable bunched up. So let's do that, and I'll bolt that ECU to this. I know some are going to say it needs to be rubber mounted, blah, blah, blah. See if I can drill on this slight angle. Right on. Nice of the Brits to give me this cutout here for my drill. Okay, I'll make a bigger hole now. put my deburring bit into this. Perfecto. Okay, so I've got the ECU bolted to the plate. Now I'm going to bolt the bracket to the truck. It's almost like it was designed to fit right there. Dang, man, that looks good. Let me get some wrenches. Get my hand down in here, contort it a little bit. Okay, so that's nice. Now, these little puppy dogs just go on here like this. When you flip these levers, not only do they snap, then you got that little lock to go in. These stock ECU things are cool because that sucks that down in there like you're pushing on it, but you're not. Okay, ECU, boom, done stamp. Sweet. Okay, we're gonna put some fluids in this thing. I can't tell if it's got oil in it or not. The dipstick seems to have a little dribble right on the end of it, so I know it'll take at least a quart. The instructions say that you fill it up. It could have oil and it may not have oil. I'm gonna put this quart in first to see. That definitely brought it up. So I'm putting some of our favorite, Peak. Peak takes care of us. So, do you see any on the floor?
No, I've been looking. I haven't seen any yet.
So we cycled the key a bunch of times and it didn't seem like it was ever going to get fuel up here. This is a non-return type fuel rail, so you don't hear the fuel circulating in it like you would a one that has a return line. This is just deadheaded. But we kept doing it. I checked the voltage at the fuel pump. I couldn't hear the pump, but the voltage was there. So finally I kept bleeding the bleed off on the front of the fuel rail, the bleeder valve, Schrader, and it's got fuel. So we have fuel, we have oil, we have coolant, there's transmission fluid in it. The transmission wiring's not hooked up, but we're not putting it in gear. The transmission's already been dynoed. The alternator's not hooked up because I haven't been able to tell yet exactly what to do there. That 2-wire alternator. But what we're going to do is I'm going to crank it and make sure it's in park. And it is. Let's crank it and see if we can get anything out of it. Fingers crossed. Pretty easy, but it's... Okay, here we go, David. Happy birthday. Okay, so this thing weighs in at 3.5 ounces. Literally, look, it weighs nothing. I'm going to put this in, and this is the problem that, see that lip that's turned in? That was the thing that made it so hard to get off. But we're past that. I just gotta, and see back here, I can't let it down because it hits the, see back there? It hits the molding, the drip rail. So I gotta figure out what's going on here. Maybe if I twist, okay, I'm able to twist it in place. Let's see. Funkadelic bolts. So they look like big wood screws with the ends cut off of them. And they're Whitworth. If you don't know what Whitworth is, look it up. It's a British size, it's not metric, it's not standard. So 13 wrench is too big, a 12 is too small, which you can work around a lot, except in this case, you're up in a very tight spot and you're ratcheting back and forth, and most of your ratchet or most of your motion is wasted on sloppy bolts. So here's my trick for converting Whitworth to metric. I'm going to wrap black tape around it, a couple loops, and then shove it in this socket. Now it fits somewhat tight. Otherwise, if I put that in there, it just falls out. And these, look up in here. So see that space? That's all I've got to work with. I've got to put these bolts in. I got to stick my head in here. You'll have to come in from over top or something. All right, well, luckily that's in. There's one. Would you just look at that? Both fenders are on. Fender flares are on. I've got to get David's sending new plastic. This thing's aluminum, and plastic, and the pieces that hold them together are those plastic plugs that you use one time. There's one that's seen better days work, so it has to go in this way. So let's see. Oh, nice. Okay, so that. You know what, I think if it was raining, even though there's a drain in the bottom of that plastic box, I'm 100% sure that if you were sucking rain into that air conditioner, it's going to be blowing right in your face. I don't get it. There's no way that it couldn't. It goes right into the squirrel cage. Why would you put this on top of the fender? The more I think about it, the dumber that is. I don't like those screws. I got to do something different. But look down inside there. Let me get a flashlight. Okay, you guys can tell me what you think. See that? That's the squirrel cage. And there's a drain down there in the bottom. Tip it up. See, that's where the rain would run out of it, right there. But, so there's nothing here. If it's raining down, rain's going in there. It's going in that squirrel cage and blowing right into the evaporator and right into your face. Should I say it? It begins with a B.
Not this time.
And it ends with an ish. So I'm down to putting the egg crate on. I guess for some reason this is like the race car grill, but see that it steps out whatever 3 inches, or what is that, like 68 millimeters or something. So I've got to figure out how to make it work. At the top there's 2 little screws, so I've got it marked out. Looks like I've got to cut that out. and then that should set back there. But the fenders have to be spread out. When I bolt the fender, when the fender's bolted up tight, this grill's a little bit too wide and it makes it bend in and look really bad. So I'm going to spread the fenders out. Maybe that's a Groucho Marx grill. It's kind of protrudimus, but it's getting ready to go on and I'm happy about that. Guess what I finally get to do? Off of my lift. So I'm gonna let this thing down. I'm at least gonna roll it forward where I can get the doors open and it's not like 6 feet off of the ground. I'm gonna move it up here. It's not very far, but I'm gonna move it up here where I can open the doors and work inside. I gotta do gauges and door handles and window cranks and door panels, you know, all that stuff that you do at the end that it just seems like little stuff. It shouldn't take very long. All that stuff is the worst part. It's like building a house. You frame this house and you brick it and all this stuff goes really fast. All of a sudden this really pretty house is up, but then you come to the realization that you've got to trim all the doors and the baseboards and paint and put light switch covers and all that little stuff. It's like time just slows down. You made all this big progress so quick and you think, this is so easy, I can do this so much faster than everybody else. And then all of a sudden the brakes go on. Well, that's where I'm at with this thing. I got to put all these little knickknacks and patty wax on it. But today's the day that I get to move it off of here and get started on that. So actually, hopefully with what I've gotten accomplished, I hope that a couple more days and we see big progress. But let's get it off of here, off of my lift, because I really want to work on that C10. I want to work on that 69 Camaro. That's my first and most important thing. I got to get it where I can get it back here and block sand on it. But nothing's happening until old Teapot, we'll call him, is off of the lift. Teapots and crumpets. Once old Teapot and crumpets off of the lift, maybe I can move forward in life. So let's let it down. Moving on, getting things done. I'm kind of realizing that the project's coming to an end today. So one of the things that he's got here is nice billet grill vents. Let's put those things in real quick. Well, that certainly looks better. That was the easiest thing on this whole truck that I've done. Nice little billet piece. It kind of matches the black mirrors. Okay, so I'm gonna make a mark where I want this. I'm gonna basically cut the metal out in order to make that work. Okay, let's see if that lines up. Yeah, now the door handle sits flat. Okay, that's the kind of work you have to do to make anything on a Land Rover work. All right, I'm gonna bolt my door panel back on for the 14th time. I had to cut this whole notch out to make these bolt-in power windows work. See this whole thing, that used to have a bracket there, but I think that's going to be okay. It's just nothing bolts in. Bada bing, bada boom. I just went through hell and high water to get the hood to latch. It's a new hood, as it turns out, and it's not made right. They welded the nut in the latch, or up in the hood there's a nut, and they welded it in too far forward, so the hood pin come down and hit the hole like here, not here. So a long story, I'm not even gonna get into it. We didn't record it because it was such a pain, and I didn't take the time to record it. But we're cleaning this top up. I finally got it to work. I had to grind and beat and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. So now what I'm doing is, these fancy stainless things don't line up. You can see the hole. There's one hole or the other hole. So I'm going to go ahead and drill new holes in the body and install these so the roof has something to hold it. I guess he approves of me going ahead and bolting or drilling and putting those on. So I'm going to send him. I've been in constant contact with the owner and stuff like this. Check this out. So, like, well, I got to go to my pictures, not that. So there's a better picture that shows it. You can see the nut that's welded up inside the hood is not in the center of the hole that's in the hood, which has to be in the right place because this giant nut is the spring seat and what you tighten down to hold the hood pin. So let me go back a couple places. See, when that hood pin, you screw it in, and then when you get it where you want it, you turn that nut. Well, that nut won't turn. So I ended up taking the nut and grinding the points off of it, and I put a nice big scratch in the hood because I had to do that with channel locks to tighten it up. But I beat on the hood. Even then, it still didn't fit. So I got that to work, and I don't know, everything about it was a pain. So there's how the hood pin fit the latch. It was that far off, and I just had to manage to move the latch, move it forward, slot the holes, cut the plastic, bend the hood. I hammered it over, got everything to where it would actually latch, and it does latch. So now I'm down to, I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of those, I think David just called them D-rings. So that'll look good. The front looks good. It all lines up and latches and does its thing. So we're getting real close to test driving. Debbie and I have been wiping it down a little bit with some detailer because I don't know how long it sat in California, but it had dirt all in the rain gutter up here. So it's been sitting somewhere. That's all cleaned out, but let's get it wiped down and get those rings on there so we can go for a little test drive. Finally done, or almost finished. So Debbie and I were talking about it today. I think there's 4 parts that fit on this, and this is honest. I probably put 200 parts on it, and the 4 parts that fit was this grille. I didn't have to do anything. I simply bolted it on. The other grille on top of the fender, and the front and rear drive shafts. Those actually bolted in and fit without modification. The rest of it, 100% of the rest of it had to be modified, brackets made, something custom done. And it's been unlike anything I've ever done. But it's finished and it's cool. That's whatever, 600 horsepower and a little bitty package, a little bitty Land Rover. I'm anxious to see what it's going to be like out there on the road. I'm not taking it out there tonight. I just made sure that it's driving and it starts, runs, and drives, and I'm pretty happy with it. Let's look at the engine real quick. Look at the front end of the thing. You know, for a teapot, it's not too bad looking. I'm pretty happy with it. All this is pretty well finished. We got these, we got these, we got these. We cleaned it up. It's a pretty cool little rig. It's got to have something with the top. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Evidently, it used to have a spare tire carrier. I guess it swung, so it's not got the clip like this side over here has. We got to figure out what to do there. But other than that, look at this cool latch. I really do like this. So you push in on the tailgate, you let that little thing down, and you open the tailgate. No big deal, right? But what's cool about it is when you flip it up, the tighter you push, watch the latch. See how it's got a ratchet or a tooth in there? The tighter you push, the tighter it gets. I think that's pretty neat. That's the best engineered part on the whole truck as far as I'm concerned. So look here, this is kind of odd. You would think that the Brits moved the steering wheel to the left side, but I guess it was asking too much to move the hood latch to the left side. It's down here on the floor. So in order to open the hood, hope you don't need it open in a hurry. You have to come around the passenger side and pull the choke cable. Prop rod on. I got the latch on. I got all of this on and off for the last time. Look at that. Take a look in there. It looks just like it came in there. That you gotta love. It honestly, that looks like what I think a brand new Land Rover should look like. So it fit really nice. When it was all said and done, after modifying all of the intake pipe, modifying the radiator, modifying and engineering, re-engineering everything on here, it fits right. The motor mounts are welded properly. You've seen that. I had that in one of my first episodes where these janky motor mounts were just, ugh. I built my Nova in 1980. I started it in 77 and I narrowed the rear end in 1980. I was a teenager, and the work I did in 80 with a cutting torch and a grinder was better than the motor mounts and cross members in this thing. And I'm being serious. But I modified, changed, cleaned, ground, re-welded, added metal to them, got everything to work proper, and it's installed, it works right. It's really pretty nice now. The hinges, the mirrors, all that stuff's good. Power windows, I'm waiting on some clips to put the door panels on, or the door cards as they call them across the pond. The door cards, the clips that came with this thing were, I guess, for the factory door cards, and these are, I guess, aftermarket door cards. We really don't know, but they're totally different. So we got those coming. We got a few other little things coming that aren't exactly the same, but for the most part, it's done. So for all of you that stuck it out with me and watched this, thank you. I know it's been a little bit painful to watch my pain and watch David's pain. David's had a lot to deal with because I've messaged him 10 times a day. These don't fit. This doesn't fit. What do you want to do here? We don't have these parts. They didn't send these parts. Are there parts? Were they supposed to send parts? The parts they sent don't fit. There's parts missing from the parts they sent. The boxes of stuff they sent originally, there was no instructions, no checklist of what parts are supposed to be in there. I don't know what's supposed to be in there. I've never done one of these things, so I would make stuff or have to call David, and poor David would have to get on email and phone calls with the people he bought this stuff from. They'd say, that's supposed to be in the kit. Well, it wasn't in the kit. That went on and on and on and on. So David's had a lot to endure, but David's going to be proud of this thing. It's going to be the coolest Land Rover or Toyota. I burn Toyota all the time. I call it a Land Cruiser. It's going to be the coolest Land Rover around, I believe. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty much the best converted one, because I have spent countless hours making sure everything's right. So I'm very pleased with it. Dave is going to be pleased with it. But again, thank you guys for sticking it out. We'll see you next time.